but you feel a lot dumber missing the biggest prize pool in disc golf history because you were doing a 360 reverse backhand bad mamma jamma flip and you got injured.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Nest, a disc golf podcast where we talk about relevant topics in the disc golf world. My name is Mike with my co-host Dan. Dan, how's it going?
Absolutely splendid.
Absolutely splendid. Awesome. Um, well, we had a pretty amazing event this weekend. Tour Championship, an unlikely hero in Nathan Queen.
Oh man,
Um,
you said amazing event. I thought you were talking about my C tier that I took fifth place
yes,
in.
Dan back from injury. Let's talk about the most important tournament. Dan, how'd that tournament go?
Yeah, so I played a C tier about 40 minutes from my school this weekend. I think I was a whopping 22% in C1X, if that. That might be a little generous, but sometimes you have those days. And
Seasons for me.
yeah, seasons. Um, talk about how bad of a season Paul has putting, at least he's not putting 20%. Let's just put it at
Are
that.
you allowed to talk about critique Paul if you're putting 22% from the circle? I say
Hey,
yes. I say you can still do it. Some people will
sure.
disagree,
And
but
like those stats aren't concrete. I mean, I throw it out a number. I didn't have UDisc pulled up, so who knows?
it probably felt worse than it actually was.
Yeah, possibly,
Um,
but
so the secondary tournament of this weekend was the
mm,
Tour Championship. And like I said, Nathan Queen taking it down, the 28 seed, highest seed to ever win the event. Um,
picked by zero brackets.
Zero bracket. He didn't even pick.
It's
Well,
like at a 7,000. He didn't even pick himself
he
if he
probably
did
didn't
win.
make one. Yeah.
Probably
I
not.
think pros probably can't or shouldn't make those. Like, I don't know, whatever. But Nathan Queen taking it down. Don't quote me on this, but I think he had the hot round for every round he played. Like, I think if he didn't, he was close. Um,
Round three, I think Adam shot eight and he
you're right.
shot seven.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean,
Yeah.
he was at seven under pace the whole event, which
Yeah.
is solid. Really, really good, actually. Better than solid. Like,
Yeah.
really good.
Uh, uh, to me, like as much as I love USDGC and how great USDGC was this year, I think this was the best tournament of the year for me. Excitement wise, I don't know. I know it's a weird format. It's a unique format. Some people love it. Some people don't. But coming down the stretch, I made my wife drive home. We were on a little trip, and I was supposed to drive. And towards the end of that round, I was like, "You have to drive. I have to watch this. I can't just listen. I have to watch it." So we pulled over so I could watch it, and she wasn't too happy. But um, it was electric, man. Nathan Queen couldn't miss a shot. Drew Gibson was throwing in from everywhere.
He
Um,
had like four outside circle two
in
putts.
like
Like
five holes. In like
it
five
was
holes.
absurd. It was crazy.
He made two from like 70 back-to-back holes, and then he misses one from like 25. It was a hard putt. He was like on a tree. And then comes back and makes one from like 70 the next hole. It was crazy. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter because Nathan wasn't gonna,
All for nothing.
every like the commentators were saying like Nathan needs to, they were kind of talking like he needs to not mess up kind of thing, and he just kept the pedal down.
It
Like
didn't even look like that was a thought in his mind.
no, no
I'm gonna
shot.
keep shredding.
The only hole that he looked defensive, like sort of, was 17, the par five, when he had that bad
But
tee shot.
yeah,
But he still got par. Like
yeah.
he didn't let it go into anyone else's hands. He just full throttle the whole way. Pretty incredible. Uh, I think Dan and I were talking about this. I think this is the biggest Cinderella underdog win maybe ever in a this isn't a major obviously, but a major tournament you could call. Um, I mean, just the way it's set up, the way it's formatted, you have to do so well so consistently, and he had to play every round. I mean, to me, it's the best performance ever, like underdog wise.
Yeah, I, I would have to agree, at least in the quote unquote modern era. Um, we talked a little bit off camera about Nate Doss back when he won Worlds. I don't even know how long ago, and he hadn't won an A tier
Yeah,
that year,
yeah.
which is obviously um, pretty crazy. But in terms of having solid media where players have a social media following, like not a, I'd be pretty. I mean, a lot of the just casual disc golfers would not have any clue who Nathan Queen
Nope,
is.
no shot.
So that's definitely a Cinderella story. Played all four rounds, and that looks like it might just be a common theme with this event. Chris Dickerson did the same thing a year or two ago, where he didn't have any buys. He just had to play all the way through. And maybe there's something to it. I don't know, but
Well, even Chris at that time though, he had, I mean, he was a
he was not
much,
Nathan Queen.
yeah,
He just
a
wasn't
bigger
touring
household
full
name.
time. Yeah,
Exactly.
right.
But to your point, I think there's something to be said of getting to play the course multiple times prior to the finals, right? So, obviously for guys like Paul and even Drew, like getting those buys, it means you have to do well less often. So you would think that's an advantage. But at the same time, there's something to be said for getting in a groove too, and getting competitive rounds on the course because practice rounds only get you so far. Um, and yeah, Nathan rode the hot hand for sure. Um,
And for someone like Nathan Queen, I think this might have been the best event to do it. I
yeah,
mean, it'd be nice to get a U.S. title or a world title, but 30 grand is a pretty, it's, I think it's much more beneficial to a player like him than it would be any other player.
yeah. I mean that you're talking depending. Obviously, we don't know anybody's financial status, but if you are keeping your expenses low and being smart, like that's a that's a way to be able to stay on tour for probably a couple years with just expenses and stuff. You know, you can live a pretty low expense life as long as you're being smart. And this is the kind of thing that hopefully we can look at in a few years, and this is kind of like what it's doing for any player to where if they win an event like this, it keeps them on tour or it's life changing, right? So obviously dollar amounts are different for everybody, but winning a tournament right now and getting $5,000 or $6,000, albeit amazing and a great step up from past, but it's probably not life changing.
Mhm.
$30,000 for a touring disc golfer is life changing. It
Yeah,
just is.
I
So
agree.
that's pretty incredible, and hopefully we see it trickle down further and further as we go to where similar prizes are in less prestigious events, maybe like just on tour in general. That would be incredible,
Yeah.
and it just make the game better. Huge shout out to Disc Golf Pro Tour and Disc Golf Network for accelerating the game so quickly the way they have been. It's been wild. And shout out to Missy too. We can't forget about Missy. I mean, Missy all of a sudden decided to be on top of the game at the best time of the year.
Yeah. And you talk about Nathan Queen not really playing super defensive. Other than a few hiccups from Missy, she looked the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
she was just out there throwing shots and uh throwing great shots.
Mm-hmm.
She had a little hiccup. I don't know exactly what hole it is, but the double mando, I think she hit pretty early, but other than that, she looked like pretty solid.
So composed. Like this week and last week. That's what's impressed me the most. She just, I know she's a vet like in terms of disc golf, but like man, she just nothing phased her like these last 2 weeks. And USDGC, you're always going to run into some issues, and it's just a matter of how you deal with it. Like, no one's gone through USDGC without a bad number or a hiccup or controversy, right? And she just took everything with stride, like, no issues at all. And then of course this week too, like it looked easy for her. It was pretty crazy. Kind of an interesting final four for the women. Missy, Heather Young, Sarah Hokum, and Haley King. Not interesting. I mean, those are all solid players, but again, not seeing Paige and Katrina. They had a bye to the semis. Right? Yeah, had a bye to the semis, and that's all they played were the semis. Um, I'm pulling it up right now. Katrina missed by 2 strokes, and Paige missed by 4 to get into the finals. So again, lackluster performance for our top women. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, where do you think the landscape is for the women right now?
You know, I feel like so many of the women, men, we talk about the parity all the time. But I feel like the parity in the men is just there to stay. Like that's just the way it is. But I feel like women, there's so many of the women who are up at the top right now that just they're missing something. Like there's just one thing that's really holding them back. And I feel like any of those players, if they just get that one thing, like they're going to be dominant for
Mm-hmm.
like long time.
Right.
And once that one person's dominant, I think we're going to have more people uh ironing out those flaws so they're up at the top of their game too. Um, but yeah, there's parity right now, but I think the girls are just so close to being way better.
Yeah. Well, and
So
I think I agree. I think this is so awesome for an event like this to have the same payout for the men and the women. Um, Going back to life changing money. I mean, think about Missy. I don't know what she does in the off season. I know a lot of these. I know a lot of the middling men and a lot of the women have jobs in the off season to make ends meet and to be able to tour. But I mean, you look at like Haley getting 8,000, Sarah 12,000, Heather Young 12,000, Missy 30,000. Like if Missy did do something in the off season, like even if it's clinics or an off, a side job or whatever, she doesn't have to do that, and if she puts an off season together of I can focus on disc, and again maybe she's already doing this, but this is just an example of she can now take the entire off season to have disc golf be her job and her only job, to where that could be an off season that all of a sudden she comes back and has more training
figure
and
it
effort.
out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of I think where that's where the I could be wrong, but that's where Paul and Ricky got so far ahead of everybody else because they were probably two of the few guys who were able to focus all year long, and why there's so much parity now because more and more guys are able to do that, and it just makes the competition that much better. So I'm excited to see. I mean, wasn't it Haley a year or two ago that, or when she won last year?
She won a year ago, and I think the off season before that, I mean, she's working at Pizza Hut,
Yes.
so she
Yep.
could have enough money to tour. And
Exactly.
she won, and she said, I don't have to go back to work at Pizza Hut anymore. I
Yeah.
just won 30 grand. Like,
Yep.
I would probably make as much. I make less money at Pizza Hut this summer than I would just in this one event alone.
Oh, of
So that
course. I mean,
that's
Missy made more than some teachers make just now, right?
yeah,
I mean,
that
and Missy made 68,000 for the year. I think $68,000,
and
67.
you mentioned the with that money you'd have more time to focus on disc golf. Having more money also allows you to use that for resources for your body. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
to treat yourself. We talk about professional athletes like LeBron James, Russell Wilson, who spend over $1 million a year just on their body.
Yeah.
And obviously, disc golf's nowhere close to that. But like all these people working with Disc Golf Strong or even
Yep.
like a therapist, like that's a paid service.
Yep.
And having extra money from winning 30 grand is like a huge thing. So you can come out and maybe your arm is moving a little bit faster this
Yep.
next year and you could throw a little bit further.
Yeah, like little things like hiring a full time nutritionist,
Right.
not full time like following you necessarily, but like
Yeah.
full access, things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is super exciting for disc golf. Shout out to Guaranteed Rate and Johnsonville, some outside sponsors, LL Bean, I think too, or
Yeah.
some like. Hopefully, the biggest thing is hopefully they feel like it's worth it, because if they feel like it's worth it, they'll continue. It'll bring more outside sponsors to where this prize pool might be a consistent thing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, from an outside sponsorship perspective, if you're the Disc Golf Network, I hope you're explaining to them that realistically, more people didn't watch this compared to other events this year. Like, I'm sure a little bit more. I saw on the live stream like 6,700 people were watching the YouTube live stream towards the end of the round, which isn't like remarkably higher than normal ones if the big guys or women are in the mix. So, from an outside perspective, this tournament wasn't that different than other tournaments. And I think that's a way to look at it, that like this could be a situation where, or an opportunity to have bigger sponsors in any events, in all
Yeah.
events.
Just
So,
regular pro tour events.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I know I'm sure some money was set. I'm curious to see, I'm curious to know how much of this prize pool was held funds from the disc golf pro tour, like carrying
Just
over,
like
and
they were carrying. Yep.
yeah, and how much of it was just from the sponsorships?
That's a
We'll
very good
never know.
question.
We'll never
Yeah.
know.
And
But
let's be honest, they had big enough sponsors that they could have very well just been all from them, and
hmm
that would have been
yeah,
probably easy to do, whether
hmm
it was or wasn't. So,
yeah, for sure. Um, one this is kind of jumping topics, but one thing that really irritated me, we were talking about Nate Dawson never not winning an A tier the year he won Worlds. I think it was '05. I was gonna go check, and someone explained this to me. It, his Nate Doss was one of those guys who had his membership not expired, even though he wasn't playing. Well, it expired in March, and that means you can't go look at his history, which makes no sense to me. Um, I can't think of a good reason that that's like that. The only thing I can think of is like the PDGA wants you to pay to see your like me as like a nobody. Like, oh, I want to see what my rounder weight rated, or I want to see what I scored in this tournament. But I mean, this man he's not in the Hall of Fame right now. I don't know the criteria, but he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame, and we can't go look at his past tournaments.
because he
It,
didn't pay the $50 that
it, if I go like Tiger Woods isn't active on the PGA Tour right now. Can you imagine if I couldn't go look at his stats on the PGA Tour website? Like that doesn't make any sense. And maybe it's something where they want, the average Joe to keep paying and maybe whatever, but there should be some exceptions if that is the reasoning. It's pretty wild that we don't have access to that. I just thought that was crazy. Um I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, we talked. We were gonna talk about money in disc golf, and we kind of already did. But I mean, Missy this year with the 67,000 won more than any player, male or female, won in 2000, 19, 18, all the way back to 17. She would have been third behind Ricky and Paul when they both were just winning everything. So it's crazy how much more people are making. And then Paul, we didn't talk about Paul really, but he broke the record for earnings in a year this year. Um,
and
it's
then donated it all to,
Yep,
and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later, but donated it all to his foundation,
yeah,
which I think is super good.
hmm yeah, no, definitely. I think that money, obviously, the more money that gets into the sport, the more, not only the more people will come into it, which is obviously important, but I think more importantly, it gives people a more reasonable opportunity to make it their life. You know, until a sport becomes like totally feasible to focus on all full time, you're just not going to get as good of players or meet their potential if they have to do stuff on the side. So having it be an opportunity, and one thing that will help that is also sponsorships too, of course. Like companies need to step up and make this more feasible for players so they don't have to feel like they have to win every tournament to be on the road. But everything's going in the right direction for sure. Um, so
And
talking
even
about,
like, you go ahead.
oh, I was going to do a new subject, so go ahead.
All I was gonna say is that on like in terms of looks for the sport, and this might be a little selfish almost, but to be able to come out and be in a position like Paul, where his what was like 88,000 or
80,
something,
88, 89.
right, where he basically said, I don't need this to live.
Mm-hmm.
Like my sponsors are supporting me. That's a big chunk of change that he just basically said, I don't need this and I'm gonna use it for a different cause, which is really good. But from an outside perspective, I mean that's a really good look for the sport and gives
Yep.
it a lot more legitimacy when people are outside looking in. Players are like 80K. I mean, I can donate that to charity.
Yeah. And I mean, would it be safe to say Paul's probably right now, we don't know, but probably the only person who could comfortably do that? Probably.
Disagree.
You think so?
Yeah.
Well, I guess, I
I, I,
mean,
I think, and to say that a lot of players could do that would be a stretch.
mhm.
But a player like, especially Eagle,
I
I
was
feel
going to
like
say Simon.
Eagle
Because
or Simon.
Simon's not making any money playing disc golf right now.
This is true. The Crush Boys are getting taken care of, and if you think
Yeah.
otherwise,
Yeah.
you're I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Eagle and Simon probably are the main two. Maybe Ricky, but we've known
Yeah.
Innova to be just a little a little skirmish with their money, so we don't know. But I would say for sure Eagle and
The comments Ricky's made about getting paid and he's up next and stuff makes me feel like he's not happy at all with his contract. But we
right,
don't
could
know.
be.
But I
We don't
agree,
know.
Crush Boys for sure, and that goes to show them being um, is that a testament to them or to Discmania or just them being smart and getting contracts they deserve? You know, it's kind of probably a little bit of everything. Um, as soon as players understand their worth to these companies, the better off they're going to be. Um, I know there's some Paul a few years ago tried to. I don't really know if it was like partly his idea or company or if he just hired a manager and agent and it didn't really work out. Like the game just wasn't really ready for it. I think the game is slowly becoming ready for it. Personally, um, I know there's right now a new kind of agency that are picking up players, and hopefully we see more of those, and hopefully that does really well and it shows that it's feasible for players and it helps out players. And yeah, I mean I think that as we go, it's just going to get better for sure. So
As, as you look, as you look at the sport, and you mentioned what Discmania is doing really well, we'll probably talk about the prestige of what it looks like to be a professional disc golfer. If you look out on the course of a pro tour event, I'm sure you'll see way less Discmania on the back of people's shirts than you would like an Innova or even Discraft or DD. So, I mean, there's a reason why the Crush Boys are getting paid like they are, because there's two of them.
that's true. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation on, you know, you talk about a team like Innova who has hundreds and hundreds of sponsored players, and like I don't know what that costs them. It might not cost them anything. I don't know what they're giving those players, but you probably should be more focused on like your top guys if you want to keep them, you know. So, but who knows? So yeah, Paul breaking the all time winning in a season, end of the year, his year basically. That was the year. It's pretty much over for major disc golf. So looking back on the year, I mean, what are your overall thoughts and who are your surprises? Everything like
I mean, I thought it was a great year for disc golf. I think we'll probably start to see a few less events on the tour in the coming future, in the coming years. But I thought it was all in all a great event. Very exciting disc golf to watch, and I think that's a testament to the parity that we've seen this year. I mean, we've seen player like Mason Ford win, Nathan Queen, Adam Hammes won his first Pro Tour and NNT. Um, just a list of players. Matty O came out and plays really well. James wins his first Worlds. I mean, these are all players that if you asked at the start of the year, you'd probably never pick to win an event,
mm-hmm,
let alone big, high prestige events.
mm-hmm.
Um, so honestly, it was an amazing year. And as much as people like to see Paul and Ricky win, I'd say it's way more entertaining to watch a player of Mason Ford's caliber or even Nathan Queen battle a Ricky and
Yep.
Paul down the stretch and come out on top.
Well, I think it makes when guys like Paul and Ricky win, it makes it feel even better when we know they're not going to win every week,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, look at the storyline for Paul with USDGC. He had won one tour event, big tour event with Des Moines. I think I could be wrong. I think it,
Yeah,
it
they
might have
went
been
to
another
Moines
one.
and DDO,
Yeah,
but yeah.
DDO. Yep. And you know, if we go back to like I said, 2017, where if Paul and Ricky were in an event, one of them won it. Like that's cool. Whatever. Like that's pretty incredible. But that doesn't make USDGC as exciting. You know, oh my
And
gosh, is Paul gonna get this? You know, maybe not the greatest year. Is he gonna pull it off against a young gun? Like the storylines are so much better when there's some parity, and those top guys have to earn it more. So I agree that the parity this year was all time high. It's only going to get higher. It's only going to get better. Having guys like Mason Ford win a national tour is amazing, and it helps
fine.
them. Yeah, exactly. Everybody. It was an
Yeah.
amazing year, and I only see it growing in terms of parity for both sides, men and women. I don't want to keep repeating the same thing over and over, but hopefully the overseas players can come over full time because that's going to make it even more incredible, push the envelope even more. And yeah, I don't. to me this year was a sign of to me. I think obviously I haven't been in the scene for a long time in terms of the big picture, but to me this was the best year of disc golf I've ever been a part of, ever experienced. The growth of the game and the excitement of tournaments, the prestige. It's starting to mean more as parity gets higher. Winning events is going to mean more.
Yeah.
So, kind of the same as what we said before. When and if Paul and Ricky were winning every single event, it's just like, oh, they won another event. Compared to now, if Mason Ford can slide in there and win a NT or win a Pro Tour event, it's like, wow, like he played incredible. And I think what I love is it's not like when he wins that event, I didn't hear anyone say, man, nobody played well for him to win. Like it was, wow, Mason Ford played incredible to get that win. And I think as soon as people start thinking like that, it's just amazing. So,
I think the mindset is shifting from players like Paul and Ricky, where if there were a few years ago where if they came out and lost Worlds, like that would they like made their season less good,
yeah,
which is absurd to think
yeah.
about.
It made
But
sense
we're
then. It made
it
sense
made
then.
sense then,
Yeah,
but now we're in a place where like every tournament they come out, if they win, you deserved it, and like it's a great thing for you to win. It's not a um demotion to your season if you didn't
right.
win the
Well,
hardest event of the year.
yeah.
Like,
I think that, I mean, we can just go to it as far as who you think had the best season this year. The fact that Ricky's in the conversation for best season and didn't win a major, I mean, that just you could in 2017 if you would have been said someone who didn't win a major, you would have been laughed off the conversation. I don't think Ricky had the best year, but you could say he did. Um, who, who do you think had the best year this year?
well, I do know who you're gonna say, but you know, it's hard to judge this year, especially with so many different winners. Where you had winners like two events. Adam Hammis could have had the best year. I mean, he won an NT and a Pro Tour event, two of the prestigious NTs and
Top four
Pro
in
Tour
tour
events this
championship.
season. Yeah, I mean, like there's a case for that in comparison to, a player like Ricky or Paul who win constantly. Like a new player popping off and having the best season to them. Overall, Ricky Eagle won how many Pro Tour events? A lot of them, four, I think,
Four,
something
three or
like
four.
that. And that's even with skipping events. He missed the Pro Tour finale. Um, and we didn't talk about that, but I think we should talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, Eagle, Ricky, and Paul. I'll say Eagle McMahon. I think he made a good mentally. He came out and showed that he has a lot more mental fortitude. And yes, he's still working, but you have to realize he's a young guy. He'll only get better at these things. And he came out, won a lot of Pro Tour events, and I in the near future, majors will be his, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can say any of these guys and you're not wrong. I'm gonna say one that probably some people are just gonna say I'm wrong, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Paul Macbeth had the best year of the men. Uh, he won four events because I'm not gonna count Battle for Bedford, but he won an NT. He won a disc golf pro tour. He also won the Memorial, by the way. Um,
Does that even count?
probably not. It's just an A tier. But in the two majors we had this year, if it weren't for a 1 in a million shot,
One in James Conrad
one in
shot.
James Conrad shot, he'd have both majors this year. One
True.
shot, one shot.
It's
And I
true.
know it doesn't count. It doesn't work like that. But he got second in one major. He won the other major. He broke the record he got third in the tour championship. He broke the record for most winnings. He just signed a bajillion-dollar contract, which I know doesn't have anything to do with the season, but the worst he finished was like 18th, I think. I mean, you have to decide what's important because I mean, if you're gonna say Ricky, when it came to majors or the tour championship, like lackluster, So they're all up there. I just think Paul, with the pressure he had with the contract and people questioning him, and then turning around and winning, another major. Like to me, that's just the most impressive season. You can say anybody else too. I don't even know if I think that or if I'm just saying it so people get mad because I kind of like to stir the pot sometimes. But um,
I don't think people will be super mad,
yeah,
but
I mean, one shot away from winning both majors, and then does anybody disagree with it? Like it's just a no brainer at that point, right?
true.
If it's
It
not,
probably
then
could
you're
be.
wrong. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah. I know we're jumping, but let's talk about Eagle a little bit. Eagle wasn't able to play in the Tour Championship. He hurt himself throwing a circus shot
Circus, yeah.
while filming for Jomez. Um, he threw like a backwards 360 forehand. I don't know. He go on in his guys go on his Instagram and watch it. He did put it on a regular feed post, didn't he, or was it just his story? I think he
No,
did.
it's not a regular feed
Yeah,
post.
to go look at it. I don't know what the heck he was doing. He says it wasn't like Jomez told him to do it. He was just messing
Yeah,
around
just
off.
messing
Yeah,
around.
it wasn't recorded or anything other than.
His girlfriend was recording,
Hmm.
and that might have been, hey, watch me do something stupid. She whips out her phone, and of
And
course he does something stupid,
it's
and
not fully released what he did. He thinks he dislocated his shoulder. Ended up deciding he shouldn't play in the Tour Championship. I mean, we could take this conversation a lot of different ways.
yeah,
Um, he is young. I guess for me, here's what I'll say. Would you ever see a video released of Paul doing that? And maybe Paul's a goofball off camera. I mean,
I think there is a little bit of a that is,
yeah.
but to that extent, probably not. But I will say,
I'm probably being
um,
too hard on him.
no, there is a level of like, hey, you shouldn't do. Because let's just be honest, it was stupid. Like there's no rhyme or reason you should be doing that. And you think about even players that mess around and go throw 360 max distance drives. The sport's getting to a place where it's so easy to get injured doing that. Like you can't just do that for fun.
I mean, think of it. Think of like uh, I'm a Vikings fan, so think about if Kirk Cousins on his
Right.
Instagram going, "Hey guys, let's see if I can throw this football 90 yards," and just like unravels and just throws the ball absolutely as hard as he can. Like,
It's not good for you.
no, like you don't do that. Like, I don't
Right.
know.
And,
So,
and to be honest, the Eagle thing was way stupider than that. What are you doing?
yeah,
And it's hard to say because even someone like me who just came off injury, I didn't get hurt doing something stupid. I was just throwing a disc like I normally do and got injured. So you can get injured that way, but you feel a lot dumber missing the biggest prize pool in disc golf history because you were doing a 360 reverse backhand bad mamma jamma flip and you got injured.
I just think he's now had two completely unnecessary injuries in the last few
Oh,
years to where someone's got to pull him aside and be like, "Hey man, let's just
let's just go play disc golf.
especially for someone who takes such good care of his body, like we know how serious he takes like the disc golf strong stuff, and
Mhm.
off seasons he takes super seriously mentally and physically to just like again, hindsight, right? Like if we just saw a video of him doing that, might just be like, "What the heck is he doing? That's dumb. Like what the heck?"
Right.
So for him to like maybe we're just like reacting to the result, but I don't know. Just stop messing around. Just go win some majors.
Don't do that. Just don't do that.
Okay. So did you have anything else off the top of your head that you wanted to go over? I did have one thing that Dan and I were talking about back to the Pro Tour stuff. The idea of people splitting prize money. So Dan messaged me after Nathan won, basically saying it's a shame that he may or may not get all that money. And I didn't know what he meant at first. I was like, what are you talking about? And the idea of splitting it, we know it's happened in the past, in the not so far away past. Other small sports do this. Like, I don't know why I know this. I just remember hearing in a podcast, pool or billiards, a lot of events, they just split all the prize money straight up because if they didn't, players won't even play in them because from what I know very little about, the top few guys like win everything. And so they kind of split the prize money and leave a little bit for the other people just to make sure everybody can keep go playing. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but that idea, I did have someone pretty close to one of the players in the finals tell me that they did not split this year, but it has happened in the past. But we did get pretty strong confirmation from a source that they didn't split it. Um, it's a weird subject just because I know that it'd be good for these players to kind of split some stuff to all get more money, but at the same time, if that got out or if people knew that, it just makes stuff way less exciting to watch. What's your thought
Yeah,
on it?
I mean, I think it's super interesting because when you have a player like who were in the finals, Drew Gibson, Nathan Queen, who are lower seeds, obviously very, very strong players, but I mean, you have a pot that's right around 50,000 give or take. I guess I'm not sure what it was, 8,000 for
I
last.
think I think like they said 63,000 total.
Okay, so 63 even better. So you have 63 divided four ways. Um, is hold on, I can't do math.
Be like 17 or 18,000,
Like
right? Yeah.
$16,000, which if you're like a player like Nathan Queen, Drew Gibson, and I think they might have even mentioned somewhere on live, you can hear the players kind of talking, and I'm not going to say any players' names, but they're like, if Paul Macbeth, one of the best players in the world, asks you to split that, where you basically get guaranteed $17,000 for playing
Mm-hmm.
that final day, like if I'm Nathan Queen, that's almost a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But like Mike said, um, supposedly that didn't happen. I'm pretty sure that it didn't happen, knowing the source. But it's a weird concept because at the end of the day, if I was Nathan Queen or even Drew Gibson, it'd be pretty easy to be like, yeah. And you look at a
Yeah.
player, Adam Hammis got last place, 8,000, great money, but he could guarantee double that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it does take a little bit away from the prestige. But truth be told, if people didn't know about it, it wouldn't like people. How many people watching have no idea that splitting is a thing or that
Right.
it's ever happened?
Yep,
Like
for
the years
sure.
that it did happen, there
No
people
one
probably
knew.
don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
If unless you're really close to the game, you had no clue.
Yeah. I think that it's hopefully again, hopefully we get to a point where that's not needed or even like discussed because everyone's doing just fine.
Right.
I mean, it might happen more in other sports we don't even know about. Like maybe in some golf tours or some situations, people are splitting. We don't know. But yeah, just something worth talking about. So yeah, the only other stuff is just kind of like we said, wrapping up the year. Hopefully we'll get into a lot of stuff in the off season. We're gonna get creative, obviously, less to talk about, but contracts, things like that. We did just
Off
yeah,
season.
we did just drop the first Road to 1,000 video. The for those of you that don't know, it's a series that I'm doing personally on my journey of trying to better my rating and my skills in disc golf and getting really in depth on how to do it and hopefully giving some people some insight. So it did really well. Dan, I didn't really talk to Dan too much about it, so we're gonna get a pretty open answer. Dan, what did you think about the first video?
Great concept. I think it was well done. Um, I was a little bit surprised in kind of the format that it was done in because he sent me the video and he said, "Hey, this is what I put together," and I obviously knew the concept, but I was a little it was different than what I was expecting, especially the first one. I didn't expect it in the vlog form, but I thought it was great. And for people watching, it's gonna feel very personal,
Right.
and I think that's what Mike was going for, and that's what people want and need. You hear a lot of like instructional videos on how to, it's big in YouTube right now to how to throw 500 feet. Like you watch, is not going to teach you how to throw 500 feet. It's just not the truth.
Yeah.
And what you really require is someone that's going through it, trying trial and error, doing the correct way if there is one. I'm sure he'll talk about that in the series, but the correct way to do things. And I know he's gotten coaching from some pretty talented players who know that they're talking about in the past. So I think he's got good insight on what it looks like to do things correctly. And truth be told, that's what a lot of players are missing. Like,
Yeah. It's not gonna. I don't really foresee, unless I bring someone else on, to have it being a ton of this is the exact correct way to throw this exact shot, because I don't know that. Like, I'm learning. Obviously, if I knew that, I wouldn't be talking about how to get to 1,000 rated. I'd be talking about how to win NTs, right? So, I mean, I don't. It's gonna be more of, hey, this is what worked for me. This is the steps I took to get there. Like this, you're gonna have your own journey to get to that, and hopefully, this is helping. Some of the ones that are coming up, I think the next one is going to be kind of my um, training plan and schedule and how I keep track of my training. And I'm going to offer up that same document to people that they can use if they want to. That I think that's going to be the next one. It might be one just about my fitness stuff, what I'm going to be doing in the gym and off the course, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm excited. It got really good feedback. One of our higher viewed videos. So definitely subscribe if you want to take a look at that. But I'm excited to do it. So I guess that is pretty much all we have. Unless, Dan, do you have anything else you wanted to go over?
no, I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are going to be putting timestamps on this. So if anyone made it this long, thank you. And in the future, in this video and in the future, we're going to be putting timestamps on videos if people want to hop around to certain topics. Yeah, just make sure to like and subscribe, alerts, be on top of it, and thanks for your support. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.